Hi guys, as part of KBA's MaarghaDarshana webinar series, today we're going to be talking about prepping for college while in high school and how to go about applications. My name is Hithaishi Chandra and I'm a rising junior at Rutgers University majoring in finance.
Hi guys, I'm Shrujal Shekar. I am a rising sophomore at Rutgers University, majoring in aerospace engineering.
Hi guys, I'm Shreya Shekar. I'm a rising sophomore at Rutgers University majoring in biomedical engineering.
This episode is brought to you by the New Jersey Career Buzz.
Okay, to start off, let's talk about what are some things you guys did in high school when prepping for college, or what are some things in high school you think are most important when applying to college?
I think one of the most important ones was probably your classes and like AP classes and or any regular classes, just to know what to take and kind of prepare that transcript.
Right, so like AP or IB classes are high-level classes which mostly follow a college curriculum, I believe. So taking those classes is a good way to, first of all, get college credit if you were to take the exams, and then you also are prepared for how the course load would be like during a semester of college.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of value in that, but also no one's obligated to take it. I mean, it really depends on how you want to challenge yourself, but it would be nice for colleges to kind of see. I mean, they look at your transcript as a whole, but also look at what kind of regular you're challenging yourself with.
Right. But the most important thing when taking these hard classes is making sure you're still keeping your GPA up. Because if you're just making it for like, oh, it's an AP class, I should take it, but you're getting C's or like D's, they don't want that either. Your GPA is more important than taking AP classes, so just keep that in mind.
I didn't really take AP classes. I took dual enrollment classes with my high school, and that really guaranteed that I would get those credits rather than like taking a AP test in the end and like waiting to get a 4 or 5. Honestly, if you guys have dual enrollment classes in your high school, it's a great alternative to AP classes.
If you have the ability to do dual enrollment, I would suggest that over AP classes for sure.
I only took 8. I mean, a lot of people go crazy. A lot of people go crazy with like 24 and like every like AP class the school offers. Honestly, that's not very realistic. Try to just challenge yourself. And I know freshmen only are allowed to take 1 or none of these. If you could take 1 to challenge yourself early, go ahead. I think they only let you take history or something. I took AP Human Geography my freshman year, but that's not offered in every high school. As you go like kind of advance to each year throughout high school, increase the number of AP classes slowly. They're not as easy or as you think you could do it, even though you might be a really good, like A+ student in normal classes. But it's not even that workload. It's just there's more things to cover. Like because they're like college materials sometimes, and it's hard to do. So kind of advance slowly is what I would say.
Try not to take more than 4 in a year. I feel like 50 hours is like already kind of pushing it, but
That's true.
okay, so after AP classes, what else is important when prepping for college applications?
Standardized testing such as ACT or SAT are also very important for your college applications.
Some schools might be test optional these days, especially after like the pandemic, but a lot of them are still going back to standardized testing. And I took both the SAT and ACT, and my advice would be to see which one would play to your strengths. You don't have to take both of them to see what's better for you, but if you do a little research, like SAT is very,
It's very reading based.
yeah, like there are reading and math, but ACT is
Their science.
yeah.
It's more distributed into like 4 different sections.
ACT is a little harder, especially in like the math section because it covers calculus as well.
Yeah.
You might not be taking calculus, but that again is a really easy fix. I took calculus senior year, which was after I took my ACT exam, but it's like a few small things that you have to just touch up on, that's all.
I took both, like you said. I took SAT and ACT. I did a lot of ACT prep. But I also I didn't really focus on math for when I was studying for SAT. I focused on comprehension because that's where it was heavy in. For ACT, I just focused on math, and then I also apply the same thing to SAT because SAT is less, trig or like calculus heavy, which you kind of apply the same principles in my opinion.
Right.
So honestly, I did SAT like my final scores when I submitted it. I submitted SAT because they just are offered better in my high school, and I think also depends on your geographic location. based on the colleges and junior high school, because different schools prefer different takes, but most schools take SAT and ACT both, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they do. And there's also this whole like conversion thing. If your ACT score is better, if you're scared, like you can just convert it and see what your SAT score would look like.
Yeah.
In perspective though, how much do the scores like actually matter?
To be honest, I think standardized testing is completely subjective. It tells you nothing about how what kind of student you are. Like, it doesn't say anything about your capabilities or anything. It does not define you in any way. Some people are really bad test takers, and you can't really do anything about that. It's exam anxiety or any other problems you might have. Or like, you might be really good at, taking the test, because sometimes it's not even about the knowledge, it's about, just about the process of elimination and all those tricks and stuff. So like, yeah, even when studying, I would say focus on learning that practice, like, the practice the problems, but also practice test taking, like those specific tests. They all have kind of a method of their own. And you gotta practice those tricks and like strategies, they would say. Just time management, that's another big thing. So I wouldn't say this is a test of your entire knowledge or ability to learn. I think even colleges kind of overlook that, like you said, after pandemic, and also there's been a lot of controversies about that. So yes, they're important, but if it's not that good, or if you feel like you're not doing that well, or like you think your entire thing depends on it, I wouldn't stress.
Right, there are lots on it. There's a lot of other things that you're gonna have to send in for colleges with your application process. So just to talk a little more about that, another important thing are extracurriculars and what you're doing outside of academics. So how did extracurriculars or like having like part-time jobs, all of that change how your application looked?
So colleges look at what clubs you go to because they want to know you as a person. They want to know what makes you unique. So they want to know your interests and all of that. They also want to know how you balance that with your academics, how well you were able to manage all of it overall.
It's definitely important to make sure you're managing your time well and you're not just in all these random clubs that you're not doing anything in. It might be hard for colleges to know, but you're also just putting yourself in a position that's like not favorable for your own high school experience. So I would say maybe join 2 or 3 clubs and try to get really involved in them and like actually doing things that you are passionate about, because yeah, colleges want like a well-rounded person, but they also want someone who has an actual passion aligned with you, right? When you're writing all these supplementals or you're writing your college essay, you need to know who you are and what you want to be, even if you're like, oh, I don't know it, like I don't know what I want to major in, I don't know what I want to do as a career. You should still know what interests you and why this college is helpful for you, right? And that all comes from the extracurriculars that you do.
It's really depends. We were saying it's quality over quantity, but sometimes quantity also helps. It depends if you're involved in different varieties. Like if you're doing a social service club and then you're also doing academics club, like marching band, that's a good distribution, but it also shows that you're really strong in that, but it's still quality. But if you're focusing on general clubs, I would say do quality over quantity, because it's less commitment compared to like marching band and other stuff. So general clubs do quality over quantity. So go for able positions, try to stay long term, be really active in organizing, get in the committees or whatever there is for each club. Right? Yeah, just do something you're really passionate about, not just something you have to do.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to do something that is going to look good on my application. It's you have to do something that's going to make you look good. And those are like two different things, because being on debate team is like good look on an application. But if you're just in the sidelines and you're not even the actual person debating, then it's like, okay, what are you doing in that club? Are you making
You're
any
wasting need time and resources.
right?
You have to make a spot for yourself, right? Climb the ladders, go to state, go to nationals, work hard in those clubs. And it's not just for those are academic clubs. We need to work hard for those. So if you're really interested and you know like a direction you're going even in college, these are a really good look. So yeah.
Like if you know you're going to go into a business major, obviously you're gonna be joining DECA or like FBLA or something like that, you know?
Yeah, and then, I've seen a lot of like my close friends. He's a runner, he does cross country, and there's different things he does. And he's still being a chemical engineer. he's a year younger than me, so he just applied and he got like a full ride up sports scholarship. So I would say, yes, academics are important and sports are also important. So never compromise, I would say. But if you are failing behind in your classes, get the help you need. Try your best to come back without giving up anything you love, right? Because it takes away from your application, yourself. At most, try to balance. I think balance is key. If you can't balance, obviously, we might need to do some changes.
Yeah, you still gotta have a good GPA. You can't have really good compositions and a 2.0 GPA.
So just cause half of requirement sometimes.
You can't be doing the bare minimum of academics. And I think another thing I want to quickly highlight for extracurriculars is stuff outside of school, whether you're like tutoring, if you're working a part-time job, all of that also shows a lot of real world attributions to your college application. So colleges will know, okay, they've actually been doing other stuff, not just school, not just like clubs. They have other things that they do. And it doesn't have to be a lot, you know. A lot of my friends were teachers like Kumon, or they would like go to their old karate place and they would teach little kids, you know, that's what they would do. And it's not something that's too time consuming or like too hard on yourself. It's just something small and fun that still shows like a side of your personality that colleges can't see through grades.
Yeah, and even if you're not active like that, I don't know, like you're more of a shy person, having strong hobbies also is a good way to add on, you know, if for some reason you're not active in school as much as you think or you think is healthy. Think about it, they're looking at your application in a holistic view, but at the same time, they're seeing how you can add value to their school as a student.
If you can bring something different to their community, they're gonna think of you as a very valuable applicant. And speaking of hobbies and extracurriculars or like stuff that you do outside of a school basis is a great way to. It's a great topic for like writing your Common App essay. Writing your essay is one of the biggest things that a lot of students are going to struggle with in high school because, you know, there's this whole rhetoric that it has to be perfect. And if you have a perfect essay, then you're going to get into any college that you want. That's not true. But having a strong essay will make you stand out a lot more. So, how do you guys think is a way to go about writing this essay, choosing your topics, you know, all of that?
Personally, I wrote about like my interests and like what I wanted to eat when I grew up. That was my essay topic. So in that question, I don't know if you specifically structured it that way, but the topic that you choose to write on your Common App essay is specifically something that makes your personality. What are you unique for? It could be anything. It's totally up to you.
Right. It has to be your voice. That's all they care about. And nothing is a perfect essay. I think all essays are perfect if it's about you. You know, you're kind of showing yourself to them. And like Shrujal said, it could be anything. Or if you're really lost, Common App has prompts of its own. A lot of people answer it. You know, I think Shrujal said he answered one of them. I think that was one of the prompts. Yes, it could really be about anything. I think the most randomest and the most, you know, if you find a way to connect it back to like a core value of yourself, then anything is really good.
There are a lot of prompts up if you need help, like Shreya said, but I think the last one is always or on a topic of your choosing.
Yes.
And so that's like what I did. I wrote about this little present that I got when I was younger, and I was able to connect that to me and my story. But again, it could be something very straightforward, like, okay, what do you want to be? Why do you want to be that? Or it can just be something of so much importance to you that is like what made you who you are. And that's what colleges want to hear.
Like, they want to see creativity. You know, just kind of find a beautiful way to tell your story. Like what Hithaishi Chandra said, I kind of did a combination of both. Like I took some suggestions from the prompts and kind of combined all those questions and answered it in my topic, but using like, I don't know, a creative way. I used a Japanese like art methodology or something, like a Japanese way of kind of melting some glass into some kind of art piece or something, and somehow connected that to my story.
Yeah, like it could genuinely be anything.
I think what I did in English class, I don't know if all high schools do this, but in my high school, we spent like the first 2 months doing exercises to try and help us do this.
And one of the things we did is, like, my teacher told us to literally spend an hour just listing out every single thing in your life.
And sometimes what we did, brain moment, like that's literally one of the first steps. You need to just bullet down, not even write sentences, bullet down like topics that was really significant in your life, or like a memory that was really memorable and special to you.
Anything you can remember, like, chronologically, just, like, spit out and try to write it down, and that way you can, like, figure out, like, oh, this could make a cool essay topic, like, I could talk about this and this and put them together, you know? It's a great way to figure out what you wanna write about. So it is good to get at least a second opinion on it. That way other people are reading it and they're gonna be like, "Oh, that makes sense, like, I can see how this describes you," you know? Yeah. Okay. So after writing the essay or when you're applying, trying to pick where to apply, trying to pick which colleges are your priority. And also, I think the number of colleges you apply to are very important. I would say don't apply to 50 colleges, don't apply to 20.
That is absolutely no one is there's a lot of money. Be honest, that's a lot of money. These applications are like almost 100 per.
Yeah, and I understand that there's a lot of, like, anxiety with it. Okay, what if I don't get into anything? Or what if I don't get into, like, any college? Like,
Some school you will get into college for sure.
that's why you need to make sure you have a variety. You need to have safety schools, you need to have target schools, and you need to have reaches.
Exactly.
Even if you don't have reaches, that's fine. Like, of course, everyone wants to try and apply to an Ivy League. Like, just try not to overload yourself.
Exactly. I mean, I think we all have different numbers of schools we apply to.
Um, yeah, I think I applied to maybe 7.
Yeah, I think it was between 8 to 10. But I broke it down, like you said. I had some reach schools, my target schools, and then my target schools are the ones like I worked really hard for, and like my slash dream schools, but they're not crazy IBs that I don't know if I could go to.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Exactly. And then there's safety schools. Safety schools are like goddamn sure you can get into those college.
Those are like state schools, schools that have higher acceptance rates, things like that.
So I have a good distribution of that. That's good. I think I did like three safeties, and I did like a bunch of target schools. I did more target schools just because I know I worked hard enough for that. And then I did like 3 breach schools.
Yeah. I didn't do any reach schools. Most of the ones that I calculated, you would use College Vine or whatever, any website you want to use.
US News and College Vine.
Yeah,
one of the 2 top.
I just did like schools that I had a decent chance of getting in and schools that I was so confident, yeah, they're gonna let me in.
There's always a college that would let you in.
Yeah. So don't be scared. You just have to make sure you have like a good variety of them, but don't go applying to like 50 colleges. You don't need to.
That's a waste of money. And a lot of people ask us that you need to write new supplement stuff for each application. The answer is you always have your personal statement, which is your college common app personal statement. If you use that, I think everyone uses that. So that one would be the same unless you want to change it, but you're sending it out pretty much at the same time. Supplements differ from school to school, but they're really similar questions. I think I changed a couple sentences for some of them just to make it that school specific, based on their program or like I would say look at something that's special about that school. It's like I would tweak a sentence or something and be like, like I can imagine myself kind of being that campus.
You have to make it specific to the campus or the college because they're gonna pick it up really quickly if you're gonna have like a general supplemental that you're putting in every single one. Even if it's the same question, you gotta point out like, oh, your college has this. That's why I want to go to your.
Even if it's like 3, like I said, I would change 3 sentences.
Yeah.
I'd like 1 or 3 sentences be like, this is why the specific program or the specific environment of this college is suitable to me.
A lot of the supplements literally range from like 15 to 300 words. Like they're gonna be short, and some of them are gonna literally tell you like you have to answer this in 2 sentences. So you don't have to copy paste there. Yeah. Okay. So really quickly, let's talk about factors on when choosing specific colleges. So now you know to choose like a variety of like different leveled colleges, but like how do you choose exactly which colleges? For me, it was definitely location-wise. My parents wanted me to stay closer to home. So, of course, Rutgers, being someone from New Jersey, is the most obvious choice. Sometimes it feels like I didn't have a choice because my dad was like, you are going to go to Rutgers. And I was like, okay. But I also really like that Rutgers is a big school. My high school was really big. My graduating class was 800 people. And Rutgers is a huge school. So, a lot of the schools that I applied to was also pretty big schools. And the thing about big schools that I liked is that there's a lot of different things that you can do, and you can always make the school seem like smaller in your own little circle, and there's more people around you, and that's what I wanted. And another thing about why I chose it is because I think Rutgers had a pretty good program for like what I wanted to do. So that's why I also chose Rutgers. Close to home, big school, and yeah, program were my two factors. So my story is completely different. Shrujal and I are twins. After like halfway through high school, we moved to Chicago just to get more options for college. And we finished the last 2 years of high school there and just applied to some in-state because I think there's a tri-state thing where it still counts as in-state tuition if you apply to out of state. But I'm going to Rutgers right now. So do I ever move if you think that's what you're doing? I mean, as a kid, I didn't have a choice. Yeah. So financial like kind of concept was always a burden in a way because we were going to college at the same time, like 4 years or more, depending on our programs. So we wanted to look at a school that was relatively in-state tuition. And hopefully we didn't think that we would want to commute at first, but commuting takes half your tuition off. So we wanted to go to school that was in-state, but we were in Chicago at the time thinking that we would, you know, get that tri-state perk around that area with Wisconsin or Indiana and Illinois. But even though I applied just in reach schools near the school over there and my safety schools, I chose Rutgers because it was financially comfortable for us for both of us to go to college at the same time and not having to you know, dorm. Because most colleges have like, mandatory dorming for at least the first year. Or, some colleges, the geographic location, like I really wanted to go to Urbana-Champaign. I even got in. But it's just the fact that it's like in the middle of a cornfield, like 3 hours away from suburban place where I used to live, was that I had to dorm. I cannot have my entire family move in there or commuting is kind of out of the question. So I chose Rutgers for that reason, and it's a really good school. And I commute like it's 5 minutes away from where I live, and I get that perk of living off campus. And the second most important one, or I'd say on par with that, is the post graduation networking, because my major is biomedical engineering, or med related or science related. New Jersey is like the epitome of freaking pharmaceutical companies, med companies, even hospitals. There's a billion on campus. There's like Johnson Johnson's literally on campus in the backyard. So I'll get a lot of opportunities throughout, college and post graduation. So even besides just like location, size, like how far you are from home, or even like your financial situation, you might want to think about like where you would want to end up working after, because like Shreya said, there are some states and some schools that are heavily connected to different industries. So researching that and figuring out which schools have the best advantage for you to get into those companies and those industries would also be beneficial when trying to choose like where to apply to. Most people are focused on the class size, and I would say it's a good thing to look at the ratio between students and your professors, because you need to have hands-on experience with classes and just learning in general. And Atlanta is like the opposite of going to like a big school, because if you are in a big school, you're gonna have like okay, but think about better lecturers. I agree with you. Yeah. Rutgers is a very big school. We have 5 campuses just in one of the New Brunswick campus. Right. And the thing about it is that you have a lot of specific schools. Like I'm in School of Engineering, you're in the business school. There's another handful of schools for different, majors. That's a good thing because you're able to kind of have that entire experience with that cohort in a way. And having that background and, just having those access to those classes is very important, because I know some colleges that are really good, they're Ivy level, but they don't have all the majors. Like, that's another aspect. When choosing schools, it doesn't mean you choose a school just for the names. Choose a school that is good, really good for your program. Some schools don't have specific majors that you might be interested in, and there are a lot of schools that are like specialized in different things, like engineering schools, right? It's like medical schools, It's a lot. There's a lot to research, and I feel like us talking about it is probably maybe raising your anxiety a little bit, because you have to do a lot of research.
When you're choosing your college, right, I found it really helpful to go tour colleges. Like, for example, I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I found out that their campus is really small. And then I had a tour of Rutgers University, where I go to now, and I fell in love with the campus when I got to see it. Like, instead of seeing the pictures, it's actually better for you to go see it in person. You get the more broader perspective of how college it really is.
Yeah, I think just getting a feel for that environment, I can see myself going to school here and, vibing with that community.
Oh, for sure. My high school graduation was at Rutgers, so I got just a little tour myself. Just while you're out.
And there's another factor I'd say, like I said about the geography. Some schools are in the middle of the cities, like I know UIC, like I was saying hello. Rutgers is in the middle of like New Brunswick campus. There's a city, like in the middle of the city. It really depends on what kind of environment you want. There's some college station ones, like Texas A&M. They're literally just a town that's just for the college.
Yep, just to think about all those aspects.
Thank you guys for listening to this segment, and we hope you're able to find something helpful here. Please be sure to wait for our next episode coming soon. Bye!